Let's get started. Number 7. The repeat it till it's true trick. Say something enough times and the human brain just caves. This is called the illusory truth effect, and it is the reason your uncle is convinced that goldfish have 3-second memories, cracking your knuckles causes arthritis, and we only use 10% of our brains. None of that is true. All of it feels true, because your brain isn't actually built to fact-check, it's built to conserve energy. The first time you hear a claim, your brain spends a little effort evaluating it. The 10th time, it just goes, oh yeah, I've heard this before, and mistakes familiarity for accuracy. Repetition literally hacks the part of your mind that's supposed to protect you from nonsense. This is why propaganda doesn't need to be clever, just relentless. It's why ads repeat the same jingle 400 times instead of making one really good argument. Somewhere in your skull, a lazy little judge is sitting there going, well, I've seen this defendant a lot, must be innocent, without ever actually looking at the evidence. So stupidity doesn't spread because it's convincing. It spreads because it's loud and consistent, like a toddler screaming the same demand until you agree just to make it stop. Basically, your brain is the toddler's parent, and repetition is the tantrum that wins every single time. Number 6. Confidently wrong people. Here's a fun paradox. The less someone knows about a topic, the more likely they are to think they're an expert on it. This is the Dunning-Kruger effect, and it is basically the universe's cruelest joke. Genuine experts tend to hedge, because they know how complicated things actually are. They've seen the nuance, the exceptions, the 50 ways their claim could be wrong. Meanwhile, someone who read one article at 2 a.m. is out here explaining geopolitics to a room full of actual diplomats with zero doubt in their voice. Confidence, it turns out, has almost nothing to do with competence, but humans treat confidence like it's a certificate of accuracy. Someone speaks loudly and clearly, without an or a maybe, and our brains go, well, they sound sure, so they must know. That's how a guy who watched one documentary becomes the most trusted voice at a dinner party, drowning out the person who actually studied the subject for a decade, but keeps saying annoying, honest things like, it's complicated. Stupidity spreads beautifully through this crack, because ignorance isn't quiet, it's often the loudest, most certain voice in the room, strutting around like it owns the place, while actual knowledge stands in the corner, nervously fact-checking itself. Number 5. The peer pressure ripple. Imagine you're in a room full of people, and every single one of them insists that a short line is longer than a long line. Do you trust your own eyes, or do you agree with the crowd just to avoid being the weird one? In the famous Asch conformity experiments, about 75% of people caved and agreed with an obviously wrong group answer at least once, not because they suddenly went blind, but because disagreeing with a group feels, on some ancient evolutionary level, like signing your own exile papers. Your brain doesn't distinguish between social rejection and death, which is deeply unhelpful in a modern world full of group chats and dinner parties. So when enough people confidently believe something dumb, everyone else quietly recalibrates their own judgment to match, like dominoes politely agreeing to fall. Nobody wants to be the lone idiot who doesn't get it, so instead we get a room full of people nodding along to nonsense, each one assuming everyone else must know something they don't. It's stupidity by unanimous, terrified consent. One wrong opinion, stated with enough confidence in a crowded room, can multiply itself simply because nobody wants to be the first to say, wait, that's ridiculous. Number 4. The reward trap. One of the easiest ways to spread stupidity through a society is to reward it. Not always directly. Sometimes the reward is attention. Sometimes it is power. Sometimes it is money. Sometimes it is just the delicious little thrill of being loudly wrong in public and still getting applauded for it. Humans are learning machines, which means we repeat what gets reinforced. If a person lies and gets rewarded, they lie again. If a person insults people and gets a crowd reaction, they do it again. If a person says something oversimplified, dramatic, and emotionally sticky, and everyone shares it faster than the truth, then guess what the system just taught them? Be louder, be simpler, be more outrageous. Accuracy is optional. This is why stupid behavior can spread like a business model. The environment starts selecting for whatever gets the biggest reaction, not whatever is most correct. And once that happens, you get a society where thinking carefully is treated like a burden, while sounding certain becomes a competitive advantage. That is the real punchline. Stupidity doesn't always win because it is smarter. It wins because it is easier to reward. So the final result is a world where bad ideas get trophy-level encouragement, and everyone else is left wondering how the loudest nonsense became the most profitable opinion in the room. Number 3. The comfort of simple answers. Complicated problems have complicated causes, but your brain absolutely despises that. Given the choice between a messy, multi-layered explanation and a clean, simple villain, your brain will grab the simple one every time, the way you'd grab the pre-made sandwich instead of cooking a 5-course meal. This craving for simplicity is why conspiracy theories thrive. They take chaotic, random, terrifying uncertainty and replace it with a tidy narrative featuring a clear bad guy pulling all the strings. That's psychologically comforting, even if it's completely wrong, because a scary world with a villain in charge feels more manageable than a scary world that's just random. Nuance requires holding multiple uncomfortable truths at once, and that takes real mental effort, like trying to balance 6 plates while riding a unicycle. A simple, wrong answer takes 0 effort and delivers instant relief. So when a complicated topic, economics, disease, history, gets boiled down into one villain and one motive, people flock to it not because it's accurate, but because it's easy, and easy spreads a lot faster than true. Number 2. The bandwagon domino effect. You're at a restaurant, torn between 2 dishes, when the waiter mentions one of them is our most popular item. Suddenly, mysteriously, that's the one you want too. This is the bandwagon effect, and it is spookily effective, because your brain uses what other people are doing as a shortcut for what is probably correct, especially under uncertainty. It's efficient in small doses. If everyone in a burning building is running toward one exit, don't stop to independently verify the floor plan. But this same shortcut turns catastrophic once it's applied to ideas instead of exits. Once a belief hits a certain critical mass of believers, it stops needing evidence entirely and starts running purely on momentum, like a boulder that's already rolling and doesn't care what it flattens. People stop asking, "Is this true?" and start asking, "Does everyone else think this?" which are 2 very, very different questions with 2 very different answers. Bad ideas don't spread because they win debates, they spread because at some point they cross a popularity threshold, and after that, joining in just feels like common sense. Nobody wants to be the last person still asking annoying, inconvenient questions. Number 1. The silence of the reasonable. Here's the quiet, unglamorous villain behind almost every item on this list. Reasonable people who see something stupid happening and just say nothing. This is called pluralistic ignorance, where a group of individuals privately think this is ridiculous, but publicly assume everyone else must be fine with it, so they stay quiet to avoid rocking the boat. Meanwhile, everyone else in the room is doing the exact same calculation, which means an entire crowd can privately disagree with something while publicly, collectively enabling it, purely out of a mutual, unspoken fear of being the awkward one. It's the social equivalent of everyone at a party secretly hating the music, but nobody wanting to be the one who asks to change it. Stupidity doesn't need a majority to spread, it just needs a confident minority and a silent majority too polite, too nervous, or too conflict-averse to push back. Every other mechanism on this list, repetition, conformity, confident idiots, algorithms, echo chambers, headlines, simple answers, authority costumes, bandwagons, all of it depends on this final ingredient to actually take hold. Somebody has to not say the obvious thing out loud, and in nearly every case throughout history, somebody didn't. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.